Chosen one, pause right there, yes. You, before your thumb keeps scrolling, before your mind drifts back into the noise, before you convince yourself this is just another voice fighting for your attention. Because heaven does not break into someone's day without intention. And the fact that you stopped even for a heartbeat means something eternal just leaned in your direction. This is not random. This is not algorithm. This is not coincidence, dressed up as curiosity. This is a divine interruption. And interruptions from God are never casual. They are precise, strategic, and timed down to the second. And the stillness you just felt in your chest, that subtle tightening in your spirit, that quiet whisper that said, wait, this matters. That was not emotion. That was recognition, because your soul knows the sound of its creator, even when your mind tries to label it as content. And if you walk away too quickly, you may step over a doorway your destiny has been waiting to open. So stay, breathe, lean in, because this interruption is not finished. It's just beginning. Listen carefully, because God does not interrupt comfort for entertainment. He interrupts direction for correction. He doesn't stop people who are aligned. He steps in front of people who are drifting inches away from something essential. And you have been moving busy, responsible, productive, handling life like you always do, carrying weight like you always have, checking boxes, showing up, surviving, but somewhere in the motion, meaning began to thin out, purpose started to blur, and momentum quietly replaced intimacy. And God says, I had to step in before your speed carried you too far from yourself, before your routine numbed your calling, before your progress disguised your misalignment. And that is why this moment feels urgent, why it feels personal, why time almost feels slowed down as you listen. Because heaven just pressed pause on your life. Not because you were failing, not because you were sinful, not because you were weak, but because you stopped listening beneath the noise. And when you stop listening, God starts interrupting. That restlessness you've been trying to explain away, that subtle dissatisfaction you blamed on stress, on burnout, on the season you're in, that ache you labeled as fatigue, that heaviness you dismissed as just life. It was not weakness, it was not ingratitude, it was not emotional instability, it was a signal flare rising from your spirit, a warning light blinking on the dashboard of your soul saying, alignment is slipping, and you tried to mute it. You told yourself to push through. You told yourself you were overthinking. You blamed circumstances, blamed other people, blamed timing. But the truth is deeper and simpler. At the same time, you were not drifting into destruction. You were drifting into distraction. And distraction is more dangerous than sin, because it feels harmless, it feels productive, it feels reasonable. It doesn't scream danger, it whispers comfort. And that is exactly why God interrupted you. Because He refuses to let His chosen blend into something average when they were designed to carry something eternal. This interruption carries weight because it removes excuses. God is not negotiating with you right now. He is not offering gentle suggestions. He is not asking for a committee vote. He is saying, come back to center, come back to intimacy. Come back to the place where your identity is not tied to output but to relationship. And that is why some conversations suddenly feel shallow. Why certain environments feel heavy, even when nothing wrong is happening. Why some relationships that used to energize you now leave you drained, not because they are evil, but because they no longer match the assignment on your life. And God interrupts when you start surviving in rooms you were meant to lead, when you start shrinking in spaces you were built to shift, when you start adapting to atmospheres you were called to transform. Hear this slowly and let it settle. You were never designed to fit everywhere. You were never called to chase every opportunity. You were never meant to carry expectations. Heaven never authored. And the reason you have always felt slightly out of place, even when everything looked fine on paper, is because fine was never your destiny. Normal was never your assignment. Average was never your ceiling. And if you had blended in comfortably, you would have slowly suffocated the very fire God placed inside you. So no, you are not too sensitive. You are not too intense. You are not too different. You are simply misaligned with the ordinary, and ordinary cannot contain what is marked. Now let's talk about those closed doors, the opportunities that looked perfect but dissolved, the plans you mapped out that collapsed unexpectedly, the relationships you thought would last that somehow unraveled, the promotions that didn't happen, the moves that fell through, the dreams that stalled. You thought God was delaying you. You thought He was silent. You thought He was holding back blessing. But what if He was shielding you? What if he closed those doors not because you weren't ready, but because staying would have cost you your calling? What if that no was actually mercy in disguise? Because some doors open wide and still lead nowhere. Some opportunities glitter on the outside and drain you on the inside. And God interrupts trajectories that look impressive publicly but empty privately. He closed certain paths before they became prisons. He removed you from environments before they normalized compromise. He disrupted plans before they rewrote your identity. And you called it disappointment, while heaven called it protection. Understand this clearly. God is not rearranging your calendar. He is restoring your identity. You have been doing so much for so long that you forgot who you are when you are still. You have carried responsibility so faithfully that intimacy quietly slipped to second place. Productivity started, outranking presence. And God says, sit with me again before you move another inch. This interruption is not punishment, it is reintroduction. It is heaven reintroducing you to the version of yourself you were, before fear taught you to shrink, before rejection taught you to dim your light, before comparison convinced you to compete instead of commune. And nothing you endured was wasted. Not one betrayal, not one delay, not one lonely night, not one season of confusion. Because the betrayals sharpened your discernment, the delays built your patience, the isolation deepened your dependence, the pressure strengthened your endurance. You thought you were barely surviving, but heaven was expanding your capacity. And capacity must be forged before purpose is released. Because calling without strength becomes collapse. So God interrupts when training is complete and deployment is near. And that is why this moment feels heavy. Because clarity always carries responsibility. Once you hear him like this, you cannot pretend you didn't. Silence ends here. Confusion begins to dissolve. Excuses lose their authority. This interruption removes the comfort of partial obedience. Because when God calls you back into alignment, He is not asking for fragments of your attention. He is not demanding perfection. He is not measuring performance. He is not comparing you to anyone else. He is asking for alignment. Walk with me again. Listen before acting. Choose obedience over applause. Stop measuring your life by metrics I never created. Your job is not to impress the world. Your job is not to win approval. Your job is not to chase validation. Your job is to walk with God, and everything else will arrange itself around that alignment. Here is the truth that might surprise you. Interruptions always precede movement. This is not the end of something. This is the beginning of acceleration. After this moment, you will notice shifts. Certain desires will lose urgency. Certain voices will fade. Certain paths will stop calling your name. And peace will begin replacing pressure. You will stop forcing doors. You will stop chasing what runs from you. What is meant for you will arrive with clarity instead of chaos. Because alignment unlocks momentum. And God did not interrupt you to frighten you. He interrupted you to save you time. Time you would have wasted striving. Time you would have spent proving. Time you would have burned trying to make something work that was never meant to. He stepped in now because the next chapter requires awareness. And hear this clearly in your spirit: you are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not lost. You were interrupted on purpose. And if something just settled inside you, if peace quietly replaced panic, if clarity slipped into confusion like light under a door, that is not hype, that is alignment. So take a breath right now and say, Amen. Not out of routine, not because it sounds spiritual, but because agreement activates alignment. Say Amen as a declaration that you heard and you are willing. And don't leave this moment casually. Seal it. Honor it. Because when God interrupts like this, it is only the beginning. This is not a one-time whisper. This is the start of a deeper conversation. And if your spirit knows this message found you on purpose, then stay connected. Stay aware. Stay ready. Because this space is not about noise or hype or performance. It is about alignment, about clarity, about hearing heaven clearly when the world is loud. And if you know someone restless, someone confused, someone who feels like God has been silent, share this with them, because this may be the interruption their soul has been waiting for. And before you go, let me pray over you. Father, in the name above every name, I thank you for the one listening right now. I thank you that you love them enough to interrupt them, that you refuse to let them drift quietly away from their destiny. I ask that you seal this alignment in their spirit, that confusion break, that fear loosen its grip, that clarity flood their mind, that courage rise in their chest, restore their identity, awaken their authority, ignite their calling, Close every door that is not from you, and open every path that is. Protect their time, guard their peace, sharpen their discernment, strengthen their obedience, and let them walk forward, not pressured, but positioned, not striving, but surrendered, not anxious, but aligned. Remind them daily that they are chosen, that they are called, that they are seen, and that this interruption was not random, but divinely timed. And may they never forget that this conversation with you is not finished. It is unfolding, step by step. Glory to glory. In Jesus' name, amen.